Good evening. My name is Sam Schneider, and today, for the controversial speech, I am going to be talking about, are we in a recession? Now, my last speech, I talked about the quantity theory of money and the relationship between prices and money supply. That will also tie into this. First, let's see what Janet Yellen has to say, the Secretary for the U.S. Treasury. Yellen says the economy is not in a recession despite GDP slump. As NBC about 2 days ago. Janet Yellen said Thursday the U.S. economy is in a state of transition, not recession. When looking at the economy, job creation is continuing, household financing remains strong, consumer spending and businesses are growing, she said during her press conference. Now that's the Secretary for the U.S. Treasury. So the largest market in the world, the U.S. Treasuries market, Janet Yellen says she does not see a recession. Along with Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, said this came out yesterday on NBC. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said he does not think the U.S. is currently in a recession. Key points he made. I do not think the U.S. is currently in a recession, and the reason is there's many areas of the economy that are performing too well, says Jerome Powell. So, Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen, the Secretary for the Treasury and the Chairman of the Fed, do not see the economy in recession. Now, let's take a look at the homepage of the ECB, European Central Bank. This is still on topic of recession. The opening statement on the website says, raising interest rates is a landmark moment on our journey towards lowering inflation. President Christine Lagarde in the ECB blog says. So far as treasuries and the Fed and central banks are concerned, we are not in a recession and price stability will come back. Now, let's look at the definition of a recession, the technical definition of a recession. I hope you can see this. Recession, a period of temporary economic decline in which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in two successive quarters. GDP goes down. Now let's look at the Bureau Labor of Statistics. And this is GDP second quarter, which came out yesterday. So, real GDP decreased at an annual rate of 0.9% in the second quarter of 2022, following a negative 1.4% GDP growth the quarter before. So that is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So that's the definition of a recession. Are we in a recession? Think for yourself. Now let's look at the small business index to see if this is what the small businesses are thinking. Small business leaders say inflation is on the top of their concerns. So a survey says that 44% of small businesses cite inflation as the biggest challenge this quarter. And that was a survey from the Small Business Index, U.S. Chamber of Commerce. 44% of all small businesses see inflation as the biggest challenge they have to face this quarter. 44%, that's a massive number. So it doesn't sound too optimistic for growth. And so, do you think we're in a recession? Along with if prices are going to stay stable, let's look at an economist named Gregory Mannarino. He wrote an article called Magic Money, and it talks about the Federal Reserve's unlimited bond buying and the ECB's unlimited bond buying of debt growing the money supply. And he talks about this will keep up the stock market, creating a risk-on environment. However, this is massively inflationary and this is eroding the whole economy as a whole right now. You should check out this article called Magic Money by Gregory Mannarino, and you'll get a sense of it yourself. So I hope this video is useful and you can think for yourself, are we in a recession? Think for yourself, don't listen to the chair of the Fed, don't listen to Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury Security. Think for yourself, are we in a recession? Is the money supply still expanding? The answer is yes, the money supply is still expanding and we are beyond a recession, way worse than a recession. And it's only going to keep getting worse the more the bond market increases. So please do your own research. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.